Tomas Vey was the only human on Okries 3, a dusty agrarian colony where the nights were long and the skies glowed violet with charged storms. The locals tolerated him with a half-curious, half-wary attitude reserved for outsiders who asked for little and gave little. He was an engineer by trade, a tinkerer by obsession, and he had a workshop filled with scraps of circuitry and tools that the Okrini barely understood. He would have stayed unnoticed forever if not for the girl. Her name was Ria, a small Okrini child with mottled silver skin and clouded eyes. She moved hesitantly, tapping her clawed fingers against walls and posts. The people whispered about her when they thought she couldn't hear. Sightless one, cursed one, unfit one. In her culture, blindness was not just a disability, but a shame, a mark of the gods' disfavor. Tomas found her sitting outside his workshop one evening, bruised from stumbling into a cart. He offered her water and, on impulse, asked if she wanted to see. She laughed bitterly. "I have no eyes." But Tomas did not laugh. He spent the next 3 nights digging through his crates of salvage, a cracked visual sensor from a mining drone, a strand of adaptive filament, an old human neural interface. Piece by piece, he cobbled together a visor, not elegant, not even safe by human standards, but functional. It wrapped around her head like a crescent of metal and glass. When he slipped it onto her temples, the visor hummed and projected a mosaic of light and contoured directly into her neural pathways. Ria gasped. Her clawed hand shot upward, reaching into the air as though she could touch the shapes forming before her. She stumbled back, then forward, then laughed, pure and wild. "I can see," she cried. "Not like you do, maybe, but light, shapes, everything." Her parents wept. The neighbors fell silent. Tomas only smiled, ashamed by the sudden attention. "Keep it quiet," he told them. This was just for her. But miracles are not quiet things. 2. The ripple. Within days, half the village knew. Within weeks, traders whispered to the human who had given sight to the blind. Some came to kneel in gratitude. Others spat in fear, calling it blasphemy. The Okrini priests warned against defying the gods. The farmers, more practical, wanted Tomas to build more visors. He refused. The prototype consumed rare alloys, fragile circuits, things it scrounged over years. He had not built it to start a revolution. He had built it because a child deserved joy. But word spread further than whispers. Somewhere beyond the farms and villages, across encrypted bands Tomas had thought dormant, signals were picked up. On the 7th day after Ria first opened her sightless eyes to the world, the sky burned with the Descendant shuttle. 3. The soldiers arrived. The shuttle bore the insignia of the Zorak cohort, one of the most feared martial orders of the Okrini. Its plating was black as obsidian, its engines loud enough to shake the stones of the settlement. For soldiers disembarked. They were giants compared to Tomas, taller than any Okrini farmer, clad in exo-armor that shimmered with energy shielding. Each carried a plasma spear, weapons that could cleave a hover tank in 2. The villagers fell to their knees in terror. Ria's parents dragged her behind them, her visor hidden under a cloth. The lead soldier strode forward, helmet retracting to reveal eyes like burning coals. Human stepped forward. Tomas did, hands raised, heart hammering. He expected shackles, perhaps execution. Human technology was tightly controlled. Giving it to aliens without sanction was a capital crime under both Terran and Okrini law. But instead of seizing him, the soldier lowered his spear and, astonishingly, knelt. The other 3 followed. The villagers gasped. Tomas blinked, too stunned to speak. The soldier's voice trembled as he said, "We have heard of what you did. A visor that grants sight to the blind. My commander's daughter is afflicted. We have searched all science, all medicine. There's been no hope. Until now." He looked up, eyes wet. "We are not here to punish you, human. We are here to beg you for the choice." Tomas felt the weight of every gaze, the villagers, the soldiers, the trembling girl peeking from behind her parents. He wanted to refuse. He had built one visor, barely stable. To replicate at scale would require more materials, labs, time he did not have. Worse, If the cohort sees it, they might hoard the technology, weaponize it, turn his act of kindness into leverage in their endless wars. I didn't build this to change the galaxy, he said softly. I built it for her. He pointed to Rhea. She ducked behind her mother, smiling shyly despite her fear. The soldier's jaw tightened. Then build it for her and for mine. Help us, and you will have protection. Refuse, and others will come who do not ask so gently. The unspoken threat hung heavy. Rhea stepped forward then, clutching Tomas's sleeve. Her visor glowed faintly as she looked up at him with wide, shimmering eyes. Please, she whispered. If you could make one more, why not? And in that moment, Tomas understood. Humanity had been scattered across the stars, often mistrusted, often despised. Yet their gift, their one undeniable gift, was a will to create, to fix, to invent for no reason greater than compassion. No Okrini scientist had tried, because their culture said it was impossible. No priest had tried, because their gods said it was forbidden. But a human had tried, because a child had needed it. Tomas drew a long breath. I will help, but on one condition. The soldier tilted his head. Name it. This doesn't stay with your cohort alone. It goes to every blind child, every world. No exceptions. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Sharing technology so freely was alien to their order, but the leader bowed his head. So be it. Rhea squealed with joy and hugged Tomas's arm. The villagers erupted in murmurs. Half awe, half terror at the bargain struck. As the shuttle lifted again into the storm-filled sky, Tomas stared at the horizon. He had wanted only to give one girl the gift of sight. Now, for elite soldiers carried him toward a future he had not chosen. A future where one human invention might reshape a civilization. He closed his eyes and whispered to himself, half in dread, half in wonder. I gave her the stars. And now the stars are coming for me. The shuttle roared to the violet storms of Okris 3, climbing toward orbit. Tomas sat strapped into a jump seat opposite the 4 armored soldiers. The leader, who finally gave his name as Commander Valen, watched Tomas in silence. His armor hissed softly as the pressure seals adjusted. The others never removed their helmets. Tomas gripped the armrest. He hated silence almost as much as he hated being hauled into things he hadn't asked for. Where exactly are we going? He asked. Valen's cold-red eyes flicked to him. To my commander and his daughter. That's not an answer, Tomas muttered. It is the only one you require. Rhea's laughter, the joy in her parents' tears. Those felt like a lifetime ago. Now his invention was being carried like a weapon into the hands of soldiers. He had known this was a possibility, but not so soon, not so forcefully. 2. The daughter of a warlord. The shuttle docked with a cruiser, so large it blotted out the stars. Okrini cohort ships were not built for elegance. They were built like fortresses. Tomas was escorted through corridors that smelled of ozone and metal polish until they reached a chamber draped in banners. There, seated on a high dais, was General Koresh, scarred from battles and radiating authority. Beside him stood a girl no older than Rhea, her eyes clouded white. She clung to her father's clawed hand. Valen dropped to one knee. General, we have brought him. Koresh's voice rumbled like an avalanche. Human, they tell me you gave a cursed child sight. If this is true, you will do the same for mine. If it is false, I will scatter your bones across the void. Tomas forced himself to look at the girl. She trembled, but her small, scale fingers tightened on her father's hand. I can build her a visor, Tomas said quietly. But you must understand this isn't simple. The one I made was fragile, experimental. It might break. It might fail. It might hurt. Koresh leaned forward, teeth bared. If she can see the stars for one heartbeat, it will be worth every risk. 3. The workshop. They gave him a lab. It wasn't his cluttered workshop back in the dusty village, but it had raw materials, tools, and alien engineers assigned to assist. They watched every movement of his hands, as though trying to memorize human technique. Tomas muttered to himself as he soldered. You lot could have figured this out centuries ago if you weren't so damned obsessed with rules and gods. One of the engineers flinched but said nothing. Piece by piece, he rebuilt the visor, stronger, cleaner this time. Human adaptive circuits meshed with Ocrini alloys. The girl, sorry, sat nearby, silent but curious. "Does it hurt?" she asked at one point. "No," Tomas said. "It's like opening your eyes for the first time. Bright, confusing, but beautiful." When it was ready, he held it out to her. She hesitated. Koresh's massive hand guided hers. She placed it on her temples. The visor hummed. Sari gasped. Her eyes widened. She blinked, as light and form flooded her brain for the first time. She looked around wildly, then up at her father. "Father, I see you." The warlord who had terrified whole systems collapsed to his knees, clutching her as tears ran down his scarred face. "For the bargain. Later." Koresh faced Tomas in private. "You have given me more than every surgeon, every priest, every scientist in 100 worlds. I owe you a debt no blade can repay." Tomas swallowed. "Then repay it by sharing this with everyone. Blind children in villages, not just soldiers' daughters." Koresh's eyes narrowed. "You presume much human." "I presume nothing," Tomas shot back. "I'm telling you, if this stays in your vaults, if this becomes just another cohort weapon, then I'll destroy it myself. I built it for children, not for war." The silence stretched. Soldiers tensed. Tomas's heart pounded. Then Koresh laughed. Harsh but genuine. "You are either the bravest fool I have ever met or the most dangerous." "Very well. Human." The visors will be shared. The shadow. But not everyone agreed. Within days, Tomas learned whispers of factions within the cohort who wanted the visor as a bargaining chip, a monopoly. A cure controlled by the military meant power over billions. One night, while working late, Tomas found his lab sabotaged, circuits fried, alloys missing. He barely escaped an explosion that would have killed him, and he realized giving sight to the blind had opened far more than eyes. It had opened a battle for the soul of an empire. 6. The human factor. Sari visited him daily now, visor glowing softly. She drew pictures of things she saw. The stars, the ships, her father's face. Her joy reminded Tomas why he had started. But he knew the danger growing around him. Assassins, spies, power-hungry generals. He tightened his tools in his hand. "If they think I'm just an engineer, they're wrong. I'm human. We fix things, yes, but we also fight for what we build." And for the first time, he wondered if he would need to show the cohort what else humanity could do when pushed. The sabotage wasn't an isolated act. Tomas learned that quickly. 3 engineers assigned to him were reassigned after being caught copying his designs. A shipment of alloys vanished before reaching his lab. Even Sari's visor flickered one evening. Someone had tampered with the power core. Commander Valen stormed into the lab, fury radiating off him. "There are traitors in the cohort," he growled. "They want your visor as a weapon. They think the blind can see. The next step is soldiers who never miss." Tomas slammed his tools down. "I told you this would happen. You don't invent for one child in this galaxy without 100 men wanting to twist it for power." Valen's jaw tightened. "Then help me stop them. Build something only you can control." 2, the prototype 2, against his better judgment. Tomas began work on a second-generation visor. Not for children, not for generals, for himself. It wasn't about sight. He had his own eyes. It was about defense. He wired in human fail-safes, coded in backdoors that only he could trigger. A visor that could map heat signatures, track weapons, anticipate motion. If they came for him again, he wouldn't be helpless. When Sari asked what he was building, he lied and said it was just a better toy. Her smile cut him deeper than any blade. 3, the strike. The strike came at midnight. An explosion rocked the cruiser's starboard hangar. Fire alarms blared. Soldiers ran. Amid the chaos, mass figures stormed Tomas's lab. Not rebels, cohort elites, armored, silent, efficient. They weren't here to kill him. They were here to take him. Tomas activated the new visor. The world lit up in ghostly heat and pulse. every motion tracked in crimson lines. He moved before they did, ducking plasma bolts, grabbing a soldering torch like a weapon. For the first time, the engineer fought back. It wasn't pretty, but it was human. Improvised, desperate, relentless. By the time Valen's loyalists arrived, 2 soldiers lay unconscious, one was dead, and Tomas was bleeding from a burn across his ribs. But alive. Valen stared at him in shock. You fought trained cohort assassins? Tomas coughed. I'm human. We don't like being taken apart. 4. The Council of Blades. The attack forced Koresh's hand. The cohort general convened the Council of Blades, the highest war council of their order. Tomas was dragged before them, bruised but defiant. Alien generals snarled at one another across the chamber, debating whether to keep the human, kill him, or use him. One accused. Humans were exiled from half the galaxy for meddling in forbidden sciences. This is proof. They cannot resist reshaping others in their image. Another countered. Without him, Koresh's daughter would still be blind. Without him, our assassins would have succeeded. You fear him because he shows us our limits. The chamber erupted in shouts. Koresh silenced them with a roar. He turned to Tomas. What say you, human? Do you serve the cohort, or do you defy us? Tomas, swaying on his feet, met the warlord's burning eyes. I don't serve anyone, he said. I build because I can, because a child deserves sight, because when something's broken, humans fix it. That's who we are. If that threatens you, maybe it's not me you're afraid of, it's progress. The chamber fell silent. The ultimatum. Afterward, Valen visited Tomas privately. His armor was scarred from putting down mutineers. The cohort is splitting, he admitted. Half want you dead. Half want you as their prize. The generals shield you, but Evie cannot hold forever. Tomas winced as he adjusted the bandage on his ribs. So what's the play? Valen's eyes flicked to the stars outside the viewport. We get you off this ship, back to human space. If your people know what you've done here, maybe they'll protect you. Tomas shook his head slowly. No, if humans get this tech, it'll turn into weapons too. That's what we do best. I can't let it spiral. Valen actually chuckled. You're either the wisest fool I've ever met or the most dangerous. Funny, Tomas muttered. Your boss said the same thing. 6, the human decision. That night, Tomas made his choice. He encoded the Visor designs, not in machines, but in story symbols, riddles scattered through Okrini art and song. Anyone with patience and creativity could rediscover them, but no empire could monopolize them. When Sari asked why he looked so tired, he just smiled. Because I'm making sure you're not the only one who gets to see the stars. And as he lay awake, listening to the distant rumble of warships, Tomas knew one thing. He hadn't just given sight to the blind. He had forced an entire civilization to open its eyes. The cohort warship drifted in orbit above a barren moon, its corridors humming with tension. Assassination attempts had become almost nightly. The Council of Blades was fractured. Generals plotted in shadows. Tomas had become less an engineer and more a lightning rod. Wherever he walked, eyes followed, some with awe, some with hate. The worst came when Rhea's visor failed. She had traveled aboard the cruiser under Koresh's protection, a living reminder of Tomas's miracle. But now the visor flickered and died, smoke curling from circuits. She collapsed in tears. Tomas tore the broken device from her temples and snarled. This wasn't an accident. Someone tampered with it. Valen's expression darkened. They want to discredit you. To prove your gift is unstable. Tomas's hands shook with fury. Not for himself, for the child who had trusted him. 2, the confrontation. He stormed into the war council chamber uninvited, clutching the ruined visor like a weapon. You wanted proof? He shouted at the gathered generals. Here it is. Someone here destroyed a child's sight to win a power struggle. You call yourselves warriors, but you're coward afraid of one man with a toolbox. Gasps rippled. Several generals bristled, ready to strike him down. But Koresh rose, towering over them all. Enough, the warlord growled. This human has given where we only took. If the cohort cannot rise above its hunger for control, then we do not deserve what he offers. One general sneered. Then give him to us. We will extract his knowledge. He never finished. Valen's spear slammed into the floor, crackling with energy. You'll go through me first. The chamber teetered on the edge of civil war. 3. The human gambit. Tomas raised his hands. Stop. All of you. You want the visor? Fine, but not like this. He pulled a small cube from his pocket, a data crystal. Every design, every note, every improvement. It's all here, but it's locked. A puzzle. Solve it, and the knowledge is yours. But the lock isn't brute force. It isn't code. It's human. It requires creativity, empathy, and patience, not violence. The generals stared. Some scoffed. Others looked uneasy. Koresh studied him. You would give this freely? Tomas shook his head. Not freely. You'll earn it. Because if you can't understand the way it was built, not just the circuits, but the reason, it won't work. You'll get nothing but broken shells. For the departure. That night, Koresh summoned Tomas privately. You've lit a fire among us, the warlord admitted. Some will kill for it. Others will kill to protect it. Either way, you cannot remain here. Valen escorted Tomas to his shuttle at dawn. Sari and Riel were there, both wearing functioning visors Tomas had rebuilt in secret. They hugged him fiercely, their new eyes shining with tears. Don't stop making things, Riel whispered. The stars are brighter when you do. For once, Tomas had no words. The shuttle lifted, engines blazing. Behind him, the cohort would tear itself apart or transform. He couldn't control that, but he had planted the seed. V. Epilogue. Weeks later, on a remote Terran outpost, Tomas sat in his workshop once more. The galaxy was already buzzing. Rumors of Okrini children seeing for first time, of generals humbled by puzzles they could not solve. He sipped stale coffee, rubbing the scar across his ribs. He hadn't changed the galaxy with armies or fleets. He had done it with wires, glass, and compassion. And though he dreaded the knock of soldiers on his door once again, he smiled faintly and whispered to himself, "Let them come. I'll be ready." Because that was humanity's gift. Not conquest, not dominance, but the stubborn, reckless drive to fix what others thought unfixable. HFY punch ending. Humans don't just survive in the galaxy. They change it. One invention, one act of kindness, one impossible leap at a time.